Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class, where you can ask your questions regarding American English pronunciation, intonation, American accent, whatever you need to help you improve your overall communication in American English. Thanks so much for those of you who've been making requests for our Word of the Day series. We'll be continuing that for quite a while yet, I think, because I have a big list of your requests, and your suggestions have been great. A lot of times they're words that I wouldn't think to cover, and I know they're helpful for you and many others as well. So keep those coming. You can ask your questions today at any time by typing them in the chat, and I'll answer them live. Last week, we had a couple questions at the end that I didn't get to because they came in after I had stopped broadcasting. So I'm going to cover those two at the start today. Hopefully, those of you who requested them are watching them, or I can find you so that you'll know. So last week, someone asked about the word, excuse me, the word ordinary. And so we'll talk about this word. Part of the challenge here is these multiple R's in the same word, but let's break it down to see if we can help you. So the or syllable, in this word, the letters OR do say or. We have a lot of words where the letters OR say the sound, for example, work, word, etc. So, and this is a case where it is actually an or, and we say it with stress, so we have a little bit of length on that first syllable. Ordinary, ordinary. Then we have this AR says the air diphthong. So sometimes AR says sometimes it says R. In this case, it says air like in care or fair. So we would have kind of an or, or duh. I think I probably use a schwa in that case, or duh, ordinary. Then I have the air, E at the end, ordinary. So we talk about this quite a bit, and people often ask me about the difference between the I and the and you can use either one, ordinary or ordinary. It's just a little bit of a different placement for the tongue. The important thing is that I'm short and light and unstressed on that middle syllable there. Hi guys, I'll get to your questions in just one moment. And then we also had last week a request for the word stethoscope. And again, first syllable stress on stethoscope. We have the red tent vowel, so it sounds like eh, and then the voiceless th. So we make sure that that sound can continue. Stetha. This o again says the schwa, which sounds like and it's just like in the other word that I'm just short and light. So I'm long on stetha. And then I have scope. This O actually says an O sound, which is a diphthong in American English. So make sure you hold your O nice and long and end with a P. Stethoscope. Stethoscope. Great. Okay. Thank you. And I apologize in advance if you ask me something in the class towards the end and I don't get to it. I'll try to make note of it and cover it the following week. And if you're watching this not live, but as a replay, you can also leave your questions and comments in the comments. And I do go back through those to answer them, to cover your words in the future, and to oftentimes I have a video already for your word or some help I can give you right there in the comments. Okay. So Zachariah asking about grammar and meaning of the sentence. The alternatives look alternative than other alternatives. So no, that wouldn't be grammatically correct because you can't look alternative then. You could look more alternative than something else, although that also is kind of strange in terms of meaning. So alternative just means different. And so we don't really have something as more different. People might use that because that concept is true, but I would say also using the word alternative 3 times in the sentence, unless you're trying to be specifically clever with that, is a little bit repetitive. So you might be better off using some synonyms, some other words there. Hi, Isabel. I guess you were one of the ones who I didn't get to your word last time, so I'm glad you were here again today. Okay, Halim would like to know about the words executive and consequence. So I have a couple of videos for executive, and someone just recently commented on my more recent video for executive, which is one where I'm talking about executive, legislative, and judicial, the three branches of government. And so I noticed that, so the beginning, we have second syllable stress. So this is, executive is an EX that says the I, the I, G, Z sounds. So importantly, it's voiced, igs, igs. And so you want to have that Z sound as you move into the ek, exec. That's where I have a red tent vowel. And then I have the K sound. And this CU has a glide. In my recent video, I say that it's like execu, and then this one is a flap. So it sounds like a D, flap T, executive. I do think you also will see it more like executive with a schwa, executive. The important thing is that my zek syllable is stressed. If I have a little bit of a U, executive versus executive, it doesn't really matter so much what this vowel says. I just don't want it to be executive. I don't want to stress on that vowel because sometimes that's what I'll hear is people will pronounce it with the incorrect syllable stress. We have the word execute. I'm going to execute on that, but executive has second syllable stress. Great. So then in addition, Halim wanted to know about the word consequence. So let's talk about consequence. I would say this is, again, consequence. We have first syllable stress. C-O-N in the beginning of words when it's stressed often says the ah vowel, con. Then we have sequence. So I would say probably either two is, or I probably say it with a schwa, consequence, and then I probably use more of an I there at the end. The QU says qu, KW, and CE always says S at the end, consequence. The consequences of his hard work meant that he became an executive at age 25. Okay. Hi, Olvia. Nice to see you. She's asking about the word tour. She says it sounds more like tour with the TWO, but the touring sounds more like touring. Okay, so I did, I think I covered tour in a word of the day. So I'll look that up for you, Olvia, and send you a link for it if I can find it. I think you can say tour with an tour, and you can also say touring. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't really do touring when I'm doing touring. It sounds more than like touring, or touring. I kind of like touring. No, I guess we do touring. This is a tough word even for me to say correctly, especially when I start breaking it down. Let me do some sentences so I can hear myself and you can hear me use it in a sentence, and we'll see how it comes out when I'm not trying to break it down and when it's more natural. I will be touring the countryside. The band was touring for 2 years. Touring. Yeah, touring. I think we use kind of an there. And when it's two syllables, touring versus just tour. When I use one syllable and I'm just saying that we went on tour, in order to be able to say the word, I think I have to kind of lengthen almost into two syllables like tour. But then when I'm saying touring, touring, it's a little bit, it would be too hard to do that two syllables. So the tour becomes shorter and closer together. Okay, so I probably just made you even more confused. Certain words I think are hard because of the sequence of sounds in the words. And so you can look at the dictionary, you can see it broken down, but really kind of trying to sequence sounds in a way that makes sense for you, where it sounds good and you can flow easily. It's going to be what I recommend there. Great. Thank you for bringing that up. And maybe I'll try to work on getting some better information for you on that. I feel that that explanation was probably a little bit confusing. Yes, you're explaining it clearly, Olvia. It's just me having trouble with it. Great. Isabel wants to know about double whammy and glumly. Okay, so when we look at double whammy, I like, Isabel, I think you've had some good, funny, real word, real good usage that you hear people using. So I like that. So double, part of it here is the spelling, same as like the word trouble or bubble. So in the word bubble, it makes a little more sense. It's just a schwa, just an sound. So double, first syllable stress. And then we have the BLE, which is a B plus a syllabic L. So syllabic L means I'm saying just the L sound and there's no vowel, but it still functions as a syllable. There is a little bit of an vowel, double, an or an and so you can work on just the end of it, trying bull. You go right from the B to the L, but the back of the tongue needs to stay down to get that like sound, double. And then whammy, this is an example of spelling is WH, but the sound is just the W sound. And we have the black cat vowel and a me at the end, just like the word me. That's the E symbol, whammy. So double whammy. And then your other word was glumly. So if we look at glumly, we have again vowel schwa, the sound. So I would build that from to lum to glum, and then add your li, first syllable stress, glumly. Yeah, okay, thank you for those requests. We have the word posthumous. Yeah, that's another good word. So posthumous looks like it should be more like humus, or it's kind of like the word hummus actually in the actual pronunciation. But when we add the post, it's not a post like the word post, and it's not humus. So it changes to posthumous. So this is an ah vowel, posthumous. And then I think the th, posthumous, kind of, instead of a posthumous, postia, we kind of have a tia, a glide, posthumous, posthumous. So this tia can kind of sound a little bit like a cha, posthumous. It's because the T together with a ya is very similar to the T together with the SH, the cha or tia. Yeah, let's look that one up just because I want to show you, I want to see for myself how it looks in the online dictionary, and also show you that resource, because I think when we look at a word like posthumous, you may see different symbols for the sounds, but then when we put them together, our ear hears it a different way, and that kind of can help us when we're pronouncing. So I like Oxford Learner's Dictionary because it shows me the British and the American English. So as I type in posthumous, and that I just said it now with more of a posthumous instead of posthumous. Yes, it does say posthumous. I can hear it, so that's one helpful thing.
Posthumous.
Posthumous. Oh, they actually have the symbol for the CH sound. So they're saying it is actually posthumous with a CH, or kind of posthumous. And then British.
Posthumous.
Posthumous. Only difference in that first vowel, they have a different ah vowel than the American English. Yeah, okay, so going with my CH sound, posthumous, is how I would say that. Thanks, that was a good word. I wouldn't have thought to cover that one, but a little bit tricky because the spelling really looks quite different than how it sounds. Okay, we have a request for the word shrugged. So let's take a look at your word, shrugged. We have letters SH, say the sound SH in this word. One tip would be to start with the R, just like in the word rug. We have vowel schwa, sounds like Start with the R, rug, and then add your SH. Rug, shrug. And what you should notice is that if I start with the R, then it's easier to do the SHR because I can just keep my tongue back there in that R position and only really move the lips forward and the tongue a little bit forward to do the SH. So rug, shrug. That tends to set up your tongue to be ready to go into that R. And then shrugged, good. We don't do any vowel sound there. We just go right from the G to the D, shrugged. He shrugged it off, he shrugged. Yeah, that's a tough word. I can see why you would ask for that one. Thank you. And we have the word saute. Yes, so actually I saw that you requested this word this week for word of the day, and I'm glad you're here today. And I actually looked it up because I was thinking about British English versus American English, because I thought this was one that might be somewhat different between the two. And I was also going to give you some tips in your comment. And then when I looked it up, I was surprised at what I found. So what I found was the way I pronounce it, I saw this in some dictionaries, is saute. So this AU is like the same AU in the word caught. Sounds like ah. And then in the dictionary, you'll see this symbol for that ah sound, saute, saute. It has second syllable stress because it comes from the French. So my te syllable is where the stress is. That's what the accent mark means in French, to put the stress on there and use a certain kind of vowel sound. So I could say it as saute, and that's how I pronounce it. I have a saute pan. I'm going to saute the vegetables. But when I looked in the dictionary, I also saw it as saute, which sounded so strange to me, saute pan. But I saw it in several dictionaries, so it must also be used both for American English and British English. I saw that. I'm going to recommend saute because that's the one that I've heard the most, not just in the West where I live or in the Midwest where I grew up, but also when I listen to cooking shows or the radio, anyone talking, I hear this saute pronunciation. But if you see saute in the dictionary and you hear people saying it that way, then I guess it is also a valid way to say it. Not one that I have heard before just now, but that doesn't mean that it's not out there as a common pronunciation. So thank you for that request. I learned something from you because you asked that one. Okay. We have a request for the word hygienic. So let's write that one out. Hygienic. I'm guessing that you may also hear hygienic and hygienic. I say it with the vowel for this. When we have the word hygiene, then it is an E. That one's like saying hi or up high, hygiene, or like jean that I wear. Hygienic, then, and also hygiene. has first syllable stress, but hygienic has second syllable stress. So the vowel changes there, hygienic. This first vowel is the diphthong I, like in high. And then our last vowel is the lax I vowel, hygienic. Let's look this one up too, because I'm thinking that maybe hygienic might be British, or it might be an alternative acceptable pronunciation in American English, or it might just be wrong and something to avoid. So let's get another reference source. Speaking of dictionaries, sometimes I do look for multiple dictionaries, because you're going to see some will show you a couple of different correct pronunciations. Some will just show you one, and then you look in a dictionary and it shows you something else. So that'll tell you that there's more than one correct pronunciation. And you have to kind of pick and choose and hear what sounds like what you hear around you. Okay, so as I suspected, we have hygienic and hygienic. So both are used in American English. And hygienic is what's used in British English. So I'm glad we double checked. I typically think I go with hygienic, but hygiene and hygienist, if it's easier to keep it consistent between the two, you can use hygienic instead of hygienic. Great. Yes, two pronunciations in Webster. Yeah, you'll definitely find in different dictionaries more than one pronunciation for various words, and that tells you have some flexibility and freedom to choose which pronunciation you like better or is easier for you. It's always good to be aware if there's more than one pronunciation, so that you can recognize different words and use it, know whether or not you're using it correctly, or if your pronunciation is different but not an acceptable pronunciation, that's good to check as well. Okay, Tashi wants to know about the word aware. So let's check out your word. Here we have second syllable stress. So my AR has the air diphthong, just like we were talking about earlier. This where is like the where in warehouse, meaning goods, same as this where are you? They both have the air sound. Same as this wear, like clothes that we wear. And because it has second syllable stress, the letter A is a schwa. So it should sound like aware. And what I often hear an error for words that begin with the letter A but aren't stressed on that vowel is people will often say aware or aware. They'll try to make something more like an A with that. And what I recommend to help you change that pattern and correct it is say it without the first letter first. Just say where, just like you would say one of these wheres. And then you can say aware, like you're talking about an object, a bear, aware. That'll help you get the rhythm correct. And then you can use this sound, the schwa, and say it easily and correctly. This is true for many, many words that begin with A, like about, above, around. All of those words you want to be using a schwa, an sound, aware, about, with second syllable stress. So getting that rhythm is helpful. If you say it with more of a clear vowel in that first syllable, people may have trouble understanding what word it is that you're using. Okay. We have a question about the word literature. Two pronunciations one with a the sound. And with. Okay, sorry. Literature, duo, duel. So literature, started writing the explanation before the word. Literature. Americans will make this one into a flap T. It sounds more like litter, chur, with a CH sound. British literature. They'll use the clear T and they'll get rid of one of this syllable. Literature. And then you asked also about duo. and duel. So duo sounds like an oo and an o, duo, duo, duo. And because I'm going from the oo to the o, there's a little bit maybe of a glide in there with a w. Duo, duo. Duel sounds like an oo, tense oo, a little bit of a glide w, and then my dark syllabic l. Duel sounds like a schwa and an l, or a little bit similar to the word wool, like wool from a sheep. Duel, duel. And then, yes, you noted that with can be pronounced with the voiceless th, like with him, with me. That's how I typically say it, but many people also say it with the voiced th, with them, with him. It's harder for me because my habit and typical pronunciation is with, but both are correct. I'd like to go with you. I'd like to go with you. I'd like to go with him. I think when I say within, that's maybe more unusual that I use the voiceless th, within, without. People will often say within, without, with a voiced sound, a voiced th on those words, just because they're moving from vowel to vowel and then they keep their voice on. I guess in the Midwest where I grew up, with was clearly a voiceless sound, but you can use either one. Both are correct. And I think they're used equally across the US. So that's one where my personal pronunciation isn't necessarily more widespread or less widespread. Hi to those of you who've just joined. We have a few more questions here in the list. Okay, question about whether we should say the USA or the USA. That's starting to write the United States. So USA, the letter U actually starts with a consonant sound, yeah, a glide. So it's like this U. The rule for the is that we use E when the next word starts with a vowel sound. So USA starts with the vowel letter, but it doesn't start with a vowel sound. So in that case, we would use the USA. Most of the time, the word the should be with a schwa, the place, the time, the friend, the person, the class. You will hear people use a mix of the and the, and they don't always follow these rules exactly. Myself included, I tend to use the with the schwa, even when there's a vowel. So I might say the airport. The rule is to say the airport with the E sound because airport starts with a vowel sound. If you hear the USA, it's actually harder for me to say it that way because going from the E to the Y of you, it's just in most cases, in unstressed places and in most contexts, it's easier to use the schwa sound. And if you use the, if you overuse it, it'll make your speech sound accented and also strange. So correct is the USA. You will hear people use the in places where it doesn't really belong. So it doesn't matter too much, except that it is one of those small details that if you change to using the and in using that schwa in most cases, it's going to flow more easily and sound more like a native speaker. Great. Okay. So thank you for these great questions today. We're touching on some really great topics. I'm going to answer a few more questions and then we'll need to wrap up for today. Hopefully I'll be able to get to your question. If I don't, I'll try to check in with you in comments later, or we'll try to cover it at the start of class next week. So thank you for your patience. I know many of you have really great questions and sometimes we don't have time for all of them. So I'm going to skip your question that you asked a couple things before, and if there's time, I'll come back to it. I want to see, okay, we have a question about the word during. American English, you're going to hear that as you are as the sound, during. And in British English, you might hear it more like during. They might have more of a U sound, during, but American English, during the day, during the morning. I do have a video talking about that in more detail. I believe it was either a word of the day video or I may have covered that elsewhere. So you can check that out. Then we have a request for unfortunately. I do also, I think, have a word of the day for this one, fortunate, fortunately, unfortunately, but I'll still cover it for you now. If you want a little more detail, after class today, I'll put in the timestamps for when we covered which sounds in the comments. And I've been adding links for word of the day videos related to what we're talking about so you can get more detail and hear a longer explanation. So unfortunately, has main stress on the for, but a little bit of stress on the un too. So I couldn't say unfortunately, depending on how I'm trying to emphasize it. We have the or sound for the letters OR. So starting with or, for, fortunate. This TU says the CH sound, forcha. We have a schwa there, fortunate. I would say I use an I there, or you could also use an schwa, fortunate, fortunately. Fortunately. We use kind of a stop T there where I don't really say fortunately because it would be too hard to go right into the L. So go up to your T, fortunately, and just release right into the LE. And then adding my un is a schwa. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the time limit for class, so I may not be able to get to everyone's words, but I will do my best. Okay. I'll answer Isabel's question and then I'll come back to, we have a question with several words and I'll answer at least a few of your words. So Isabel is asking about how to build confidence while improving pronunciation. So definitely this is something that it can be challenging if you know that you're mispronouncing a word or if you're struggling to pronounce some words. It does affect your confidence in speaking. What I would say is in order to build confidence, practicing the word out of the time that you need to be using it and speaking it so that you feel, you can tell yourself, yes, I've worked on that word, I'm saying it correctly. And also to know that many times, even if you're making some small changes on the word and it's not 100% correct, if you can change and be aware of what needs to happen, you can say it, you can make a small change that will mean you'll be well understood. So I think part of what negatively affects our confidence is when we're trying to pronounce something and people don't understand. It just sends you a signal of, oh, I didn't do it right, which sends you into kind of a negative loop of, I'm not going to try, I don't feel confident. Whereas when you're practicing speaking aloud a lot, using new words and phrases in a lot of sentences, even just when you're talking to yourself, you'll feel confident that, oh, it's a little bit easier now for me to say those words. It's okay if I'm slowing down a little bit when I'm talking. And then when you go into that real speaking situation, you can remind yourself you've been working on it. It's going to come out much better this time. And then that will build into more of a positive feedback loop. So it does take time and effort. And I congratulate you for working on it and just try to be patient with yourself. Many, many times I've had students and clients who they're their own worst critics. So they'll say something to me and they think they did it wrong and I'll hear it's correct, it's fine. Or they'll think, oh, I have a really heavy accent or my pronunciation is really bad. And it really actually is quite good, very minimal differences. So just know that sometimes your own awareness, when you start to become aware and know about pronunciation errors and differences, you hear them more. And so sometimes you sound worse to yourself. It does sometimes get worse before it gets better because, oh, now all of a sudden I'm hearing I do it this way and I know I have the information it's supposed to be this way. Don't let that, use that as a helper rather than letting it discourage you. That's my advice, whether or not it works for you. Thank you for that question. Okay, so let's go back to, we had a couple requests for Buffeting, perinatal, births, rules, roles. Okay, so buffeting. This is an example of that T is more of a flap, so we end up saying it more like a D sound. Buffet, buffeting, buffeting. I think we do kind of a I vowel here or a schwa, buffeting, buffeting, and definitely a schwa in that stressed first syllable, buffeting. Then perinatal. Perinatal has stress on the nay syllable. Again, we have a TAL here. This is the flap T syllabic L combination. So just like in Seattle, little, bottle, we go from the D to the L with a little bit of a schwa sound. And then we have an air diphthong in the beginning, and we either use a schwa or an I. Perinatal or perinatal. Main stress, though, on that nay syllable. That's where you want your length. Let's see. And then births. You have, this is a THS. The letter S says S. You may also be able to say births with a voice TH. I say it just like I say with a voiceless TH. Earths. What I'll suggest is I have a video for the word earth. They say start with earth, birth, births. And I also have a video for how to pronounce words with THS. So when I go back through, like I said, timestamp this in the comments. I'll put some links there to help you with THS and with earth. Hopefully those will help you. And then for rules versus roles, both of these have the Z sound. The LZ might be a little challenging, so trying to do Uls can help you. Rules, we just have the U, tense U sound. Roles, we have the O diphthong. So both of them are long. Roll, roll, and rule. Rules, rolls. Not easy. Anytime there's R and L together, or similar vowels, that can definitely be challenging. I do have quite a few videos in my American R playlist and just on my channel for specific words with R and L, and there are some past classes where we covered difficult words and difficult combinations, so hopefully those will help you. Great. Okay, last word, and then we're going to wrap up for today. So we have a question about the word really, and the question is whether we connect really or really. Really. I think we don't really do really because that it ends up being kind of long that way. So I would either do really, kind of just like really, or I'll tell you what Americans really do. I just modeled it there, and that what I really do is in most cases, I actually use really with the I vowel. I'm really busy. I'm really happy you asked this. I can say really, but it's harder to do that tense E, really. Where I would probably use the tense E, really, is if I'm stretching it out like, oh, really? Like if I'm highlighting and stressing on that word. But if I'm saying I'm really this, I'm really that, I'm going to use the I vowel, and it rhymes with words like hilly and silly. So you may notice like what you're hearing when people are saying really doesn't sound like there's a real in it. And that's why, because we often reduce that vowel, even though it's in the stressed syllable. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of class today and for all of your great comments, your support. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. We'll have our live class at the same time. Some of you are channel members, and we'll have our live class on Sunday at 11 o'clock. That's so channel membership is something new that I'm offering. You can join the channel as a member, and we have an extra class that's a small group class for you. And you can attend it live, or as a channel member, you can ask your questions at any time during the week, and I'll answer them on Sunday. So you can watch it live or as a replay. And channel members will also get a quicker response to their requests. So if that's something that interests you, it helps support the channel and helps me make more videos and reach out to more people. And I appreciate those of you who are members. And of course, all of you who've been attending class, subscribers, no need to become a member if you don't want. It's just an option for you. Thanks so much for being a part of class today. I'll be back again tomorrow with our word of the day, next Friday with our live question and answer class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, guys. Thanks for a great class. See you next time.